I'm Ivy Nelson. I am the Elementary Technology Integration Specialist for Belton Schools, and this module is about Google Forms. Most of you have probably completed a Google form for our district in the form of a survey, and so that's what we're going to be working on today. But there are a lot of additional things that you can do with Google Forms. You could create a quiz or a test in Google Forms, and then you can actually, there's an add-on that I'm going to show you where it can automatically grade those responses for you. And then we will also talk about how you can use Google Forms in the classroom to track data and do some different storage things, because Google Forms is an online survey, test, quiz type of program, but then it generates responses in Google Sheets, which is similar to Excel. So you can do some data storage and data tracking through Google Sheets. And there's a separate module about Google Sheets that will go into more detail about that, that Brad Moser is creating, but this one will give you a tab. You will see your 9 squares or Hollywood squares or app launcher icon in the top right corner. So if you click that, you can go down to more and then even more to get forms. Otherwise, you can just, if you're in your Google Drive, for example, you can go to new and then more and then Google Forms. So to create a Google form, it starts off and it looks like this. So you can title your form. So if you type the title down here, then it will automatically update the title up in your top left-hand corner. If you see that, that's pretty cool. You can add a description if you need to. At the top also, there's these settings for the form, so you can hide those, or you can click and they'll drop down. So you could require the Belton School District login to view this form, so if it's something that you only want people inside Belton Schools to fill out. Otherwise, if you're wanting to share this like as a survey with parents, then you'll want to make sure that this is unchecked. You can click to automatically collect respondents' Belton username, and so that means that it will not be an anonymous form, and you will see the people filling out your form will see at the top, they will see a little note that says your username, you know, inelson@bsd124.org will be collected when you submit this form. And so they will see that to know it won't be anonymous. Otherwise, if you want it to be anonymous, then you would make sure that that's unchecked. You can show a progress bar at the bottom of the form pages, which means if it's a long form, they can see how far they are from being finished. You can say that you only want to allow one response per person, and it requires a login. So if you're going to use a Google form to do a quiz or a test in class for students, then you would want to only allow one response per person. And then you might also want to shuffle the question order if you're doing a quiz or test in class. So we titled our form, we don't want to do a description, and then we want to write our question. So we could just type so we can type a question there. And then you have some different answers. Help text, you can type that if you need to, you know, if you want them to select more than one answer, you could type that. You know, if you want to give further directions for your question, that's where you would type that as well. So then you have these options for your questions. So you can do text, which is a small box. You can do paragraph text, which gives a bigger box for people to type in. You can do multiple choice, and then you simply type your answer into, you know, what you want the answer to be. Click tab, and it will automatically go down to the next box. Tab again. And then if you want to add other, that gives them the option where they can click other and then they can type a response into that box. So that's kind of cool. You could also do check boxes. which will allow people to select more than one response. You can choose from a list, so you could have a drop-down menu with these options. You can do a scale, so on a scale of 1 to 5, and then you can label 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, however you want to do that. And you can do, you know, from 1 to 10 even, so 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, or 1 is strongly disagree, and then 10 is strongly agree. A grid is a little different. A grid will show up like you'll have a row along the top and then a column to the left, and then it'll have little radio buttons that you can fill in. So for example, if you attended our Summer Institute, we did a grid on the feedback form, and so the grid was across the top it said strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. And then down the left-hand side we had things like presenter was knowledgeable on their topic, presenter used time effectively, presenter answered your questions, things like that. And then you could fill in the little radio buttons to kind of rate your responses. So that's what a grid looks like. And then a date, so you can have, you know, if you're asking them for their birth date, they can do month, day, year. You can have them not include year, so it's just the month and day. And then you can also include time. So if it's an exact time that you want them to complete the, you know, a question, you want it exact and you want the exact time as well. And then time is a separate one. So if you're just wanting the time, then you can do time and it won't have the date. Or if you want duration, so then, you know, how many minutes did it take you to complete this activity? So then you could pick hours, minutes, seconds, whatever you want there. All right, so we're going to do just a multiple choice. And then we're going to add other, and then option 2, option 3. So then you just click and it'll add more options for you. And then if you click at the bottom, if you see this where it says required question, you can click that, and then that will make it to where everyone has to answer that question and can't skip it. Now another cool thing, so on some of these, so on multiple choice, you'll see this option, go to a page based on the answer. So you can actually add a page break and you can make it go to a page based on how they respond. So you could say, you could ask a yes or no question, and if they choose yes, it takes you to another question. If they choose no, it takes you to the, you know, question number 10 or jumps them forward. So you could select that. So right now I haven't created many pages, and so it doesn't have many for me to choose from. And so once you've created your full form, then you can go back and you can have them continue to different questions or jump ahead to different questions. So I'm going to say done, and that's how you can, you know, you have your question there. Now to edit it, you just simply go back or click in the question and you can edit again. If you click out of it, you can go back to and click the edit button. You can also click this to duplicate or click the trash can to delete this question. So I'm going to click done, and then you can add an item, and if you click the drop down arrow next to that button that says add item, you can choose right from there what kind of question you want. So maybe on my next question I want it to be choose from a list. So then it will automatically have that selected as my option. You can also add, a section header, you can add a page break, an image, or a video. So let's say I want to add a page break, and then I want to title this differently. So I'm going to add my page break, and then I'm going to add a new item on page 2, and I'm going to add an image. And so I'm going to add this image of Africa. And I want students to find this picture of Africa, look at this picture of Africa, and then I am going to add a question, and I'm going to ask what area of Africa is highlighted in red. So then they'd be able to have this image and they'd see, oh, what is this area of Africa called? And then I can give them the multiple choice responses or the check boxes or choose from a list option, however you want to do your answers. And then there's that question. Then at the bottom of the form, when you're finished with your questions, at the bottom of the form, you can show a link to submit another response. If you're doing this as a quiz or a test, I like to just uncheck that so that students aren't tempted to submit another response. If a student does submit another response, so you do a quiz or a test and they go back and they submit a second response, you can always see, like, it will always have a timestamp so that you will always be able to go back and to see, oh, Johnny took the test at 8:15 and then he went back at 2:15 later in the day after he'd looked up all the answers to the test and took it again and got 100%. So you can always see those timestamps and you'd be able to tell when the student took it and when they submitted their answers, so you can kind of work around that. You can also publish and show a public link to form results, and if you click this question mark, it'll tell you if enabled, all respondents and anyone with the link will be able to see a summary charts of this form's results. So that just kind of shows you what your results look like kind of at a glance. It doesn't really show you specific or personal information or who answered what. It just kind of shows you a breakdown of, if you're doing a poll or a survey, then it'll just give you a breakdown of what people are responding so far. And then you could select allow responders to edit responses after submitting. Again, if you're doing this as a quiz or a test, then I don't like to have that checked. But if you're doing it as a survey or something asking students to, like reflect on something or give feedback on an activity you did in class, then that might be nice to allow them the opportunity to go back and edit their responses. And then when you click Send Form, you have this option. So you can click the link, copy paste it onto your website or email it to students. You could embed it onto different pages. You can share the link via these social media sites, or you could send the form via email. So you could type in your students' email addresses and then you can send the form. You can also click to send yourself a copy of the form. And then at the bottom, which you can't really see the bottom of my screen in this video, but you'll click the green little button that says send. So I'm going to get out of there because I don't want to actually send it to anyone. And now I'm going to show you an example form. So this is an example form that I have already made. And I want to show you the theme. So right now the theme I have set is this little cars and trucks theme. But if you click change theme, you can change it to different things and make it look different. You can choose a form that you've done previously and copy a theme. So if I want to choose a form that I have done before, this one is a nice Belton, professional district looking form. And then I can even customize the form. So I could change the background color to be a really dark purple if I wanted to, and so I can change things that way. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to just make it the little cars and trucks theme again. And then at the top next to that change theme button, you have view responses. So if you click view responses, it shows the responses that have been collected in a Google Sheet. So this is actually, if you'll notice in the top left corner, it says example quiz, and then, so it'll be the title of whatever your form is called. So it could be student survey, whatever you've called it. And then in parentheses after that, it will have the word responses. So after that, you can, so it will automatically generate this Google Sheet, and that will be in your drive. So you'll have, whenever you create a form, so for example, if you create a form and you call it student survey, it automatically generates a Google Sheet called student survey parentheses responses close parentheses. And then that is where you can access the results of your Google form. So whenever somebody answers the questions in your Google form, it will report it in that responses Google Sheet. So I'm going to show you a really awesome tool that is a Google add-on in Google Sheets, and it is called Flubaroo. So I have uninstalled it to show you how to install it for this purpose. So if you go up, and you have to be in Google Sheets, you can't be in Google Forms. So when you're in your Google Sheet of responses and you click add-ons, if you go to get add-ons, the add-on that we're going to use is called Flubaroo, and it automatically popped up right here because it's probably the most popular Google Sheets add-on. It's awesome. And what it does is it will, if you do a quiz or test with students, it will grade their work for you. It's so cool. So if you click this button that says free, and then it says Flubaroo would like to do all of these things, and you say, okay, I'm going to allow it because Flubaroo is just a wonderful tool that I want to use. And then it will kind of walk you through. I don't want to go to flubaroo.com. It gives you these options to kind of learn more. So I'm going to walk you through it. So when you're ready to use Flubaroo, so I have some responses to this example quiz that I made. So I'm going to go click add-ons, go to Flubaroo, and click grade assignment. And Flubaroo, it says it's working at the bottom of the page, and then it's going to pop up. And it's going to walk you through these steps. And after like 4 or 5 steps, you're going to be done and your assignment's going to be graded. And it's super cool. So on this first step, you're going to assign grading points. So I'm going to assign, so this question was really hard, so I'm going to assign 5 points to it. And then the username. So the username identifies the student, so it's not going to have any point value assigned to it. So it's really cool that Flubaroo can already sense that, because I had it collect everybody's username, so that's how I'm going to be able to tell that that was my student. This one was a constructed response, so I'm going to give 10 points possible for how they explained how they got their answer. And then since there's 3 primary colors, I'm going to give a point for each one that they got correct. And so those are my points that I'm going to assign for this. So then when I'm done with that, I'm going to click continue. And then now it's going to ask which submission should be used as the answer key. So typically it says this will be a submission made by you. And so I'm going to mark that my submission was the answer key. So I'm going to click continue. So you're going to have to take this test, and you're going to answer all of the questions correctly. And then you will see, so you'll see how these people that submitted their responses have done. So the points possible were 19 points possible. Now, there are no points assigned for the explain how you got the answer, because those have not been, like, those need to be graded by me. And so I will go back to the responses, which are right here. So you see how it creates a second tab in my spreadsheet of the grades. So I can go back and I can read, explain how you got the answer. I counted 5 fingers and then 2 more fingers and got 7 fingers. Well, okay, that works. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my fingers and then added 2 of my toes to equal a total of 7. So that's good too. And then I used my fingers. So great. So we have our students counting on their fingers to add, and so that is an acceptable method. So I'm going to give them both 10 points. And then, so they did a very good job on that question. So points possible up here, it says 19. Average points was 12.5 points. And then it counted 2 submissions, and then it said number of low-scoring questions was 2. So these low-scoring questions, meaning if my students missed the different questions, so they missed, if you have more than 50% of your class miss a question, that is a low-scoring question, and so it will automatically highlight those questions in orange. And so what you can do is, I see my question number 1 about photosynthesis was a low scoring question. So I can go back to my student submissions and I can read, okay, one student thought it was, instead of photosynthesis, one student thought it was photochromic lenses, and one student put osmosis. So I probably need to go back and I need to reteach photosynthesis, and so I need to kind of reassess that. Or maybe you find out that it's a low scoring question, but your question was kind of worded strangely, and so maybe that's why students scored low. And so maybe you decide that you want to throw that question out. So that is the Flubaroo add-on that can be used in forms and sheets. So if you create a quiz or a test in forms, then you can do the Flubaroo add-on in your Google Sheets, and then you can very quickly and easily grade your assignments for students. So now if I want to, since I assigned 10 points to the questions that I had to grade myself because they were a constructed response, I can go back to Flubaroo and I can select regrade assignment. And so it says, yes, I want to replace my existing responses. Continue. Continue. And now I'm complete. And so now then, it's not showing my points there. Oh, because it pulled from the original. So it's not gonna pull, it's gonna just go back and regrade. So if I went back to my student submissions and I changed a response, or I changed, so what is 5 plus 2 if I chose, if I put 3 for the, no, that's mine, so I don't want to do that. So if I put, changed her answer to 3, and then I can go back and I can regrade. Continue. Continue. All right, it's done. And now it's going to show that she missed this question, so she got 0 points on it. And then it's also question number 2 is highlighted because 50% or more of my students missed this question. So that's kind of a cool feature. You can also go and you can email grades, so it's going to pick up the username that's over here in the form of an email, and it's going to email the grades for you. You can view a report, and so it will pull up this little graph for you. So that's pretty cool. There's also the tab, so for any sort of Google Sheets, and I'm sure that Brad will talk about this when he shows you Google Sheets, but whenever you have a form submission and you have this form tab in Sheets, you can go to show summary of responses. So if I click that, and you can do this without any sort of Flubaroo add-on, you just go to form, so the form tab, and then show summary of responses, and then it will show you this. So out of these responses, 1/3 of my class got it wrong, or 2/3 of my class got it wrong. No. 1/3 said osmosis, 1/3 said photochromic lenses, and then 1/3 said photosynthesis. So 1 got it right, and then 2/3 of my class got it wrong. And then 100% got the 5 plus 2 question correct. And it breaks down that. And then what are the primary colors? We had 3 people that said red, no one said green, 3 people said blue, and then 2 people said yellow. So it shows that breakdown. So that's kind of a cool feature as well that you can do in Google Forms, and then the sheets that it reports in. So that is how you view your responses in Google Forms, and now you are going to create your own Google form and generate a link, and then you will copy paste that link to your Google form and you'll put that onto Canvas, and that is your summative assessment for the Google Forms module.